Looking for these better days.
It is Thursday, August 28th. I'm Scott Seidenberg. Here's what you need to know to make today a better day. Week one of the college football season gets underway tonight. We have several games on your college football schedule. We'll give out some best bets for those games coming up tonight. And in Major League Baseball, the New York Mets make it 10 straight wins over the Phillies at Citi Field. And last night was a gem pitched by rookie sensation Nolan McLean. Jared Smith joins me here on this episode of Better Day. And Jared, let's start with the college football because we can now take everything from week zero. We put it behind us. We did a little recap on Monday's episode, but let's forget about it now. It's all about week one. And we got a couple of interesting games on the schedule tonight.
Yeah, there's a couple. I think the one down in Tampa, the Boise State South Florida game. I mean, I think the weather is absolutely going to play an impact there. And I'm not talking about rain or thunderstorms, which could, of course, pop up in South Florida. If you're familiar with that area, they could literally just pop up out of nowhere. But you get a team like Boise State that comes down from the heat, or comes down to the heat and humidity. And for those unfamiliar, August in that part of the country is an absolute armpit. And I don't think Boise State that practices at altitude is really going to be prepared for it. Now, South Florida is also in the elements, but I just think that's a game that could go very south in one direction in terms of the total if neither offense wants to play fast. And then, yeah, just in general, I think you have a lot of these cold weather teams. If they're playing in very warm weather cities in the early parts of the season, I think that is absolutely a factor.
The line has been all over the place. This is unbelievable, the amount of movement that we've seen on this Boise State game. So Boise opens up as a 9.5-point favorite, total of 63.5. We've had a little tick down for that total, now at 62.5. Boise just kept getting down and down and down, and now we're seeing Boise as a 5.5-point favorite. And I have to wonder if we've gotten to the point of too much. Like are we at the what's the word I'm looking for? Is
High low type spot,
the inflection point, is that what it is? Like
pivot point,
the pivot point
market?
Like,
sure.
Here's the point I'm trying to make, guys. It's gotten down too low, okay? I think now is the time we can play Boise State minus 5.5. For me, if we look at both of these teams, you like the quarterback at Boise, certainly, Maddox Madsen. We know that they have experience in big games, and I think that's very important. Whereas South Florida, I understand they're on the upswing. I understand the coach has some high expectations for them this year. They've still never been in a big game, right? This is Boise State knows how to handle this pressure, and this game could have serious implications on the college football playoff because if Boise, who's the odds-on favorite right now to be the Group of Five representative, if they lose this game, and let's say they are a 2-loss Mountain West champion, meaning they lose this game tonight, they lose to Notre Dame when they go to South Bend, and then they go undefeated in the conference, they win the Mountain West title game. Is a 2-loss Boise State team going to be the highest ranked Group of Five champion? I don't know. Maybe they could be, but there's also no
Group of Five year.
But there's no room for error now. Like you can't lose a regular season game. You can't lose to San Jose State. You can't lose to UNLV. So I think it's a very, very interesting game from that perspective. If you're looking at the college football playoff landscape here, Boise, they really can't lose this game. We know that Boise has to replace a ton of production. Not just Ashton Genty. They lost their top wide receiver in Camber as well. So it's like 3,500 yards of offense that they have to replace from last year. And as you mentioned, the heat and humidity could be a major factor in this game. I agree with the line move. At this point, there's no value in South Florida at all. To me, the play is on the under. I think at 62.5, I can still play the under.
Yeah, I think in general, it kind of reminds me of the preseason in the NFL, Scott, because I was talking about this earlier when we were handicapping, a couple of the more higher profile games and just talking about how much roster turnover there is. Just think about how much roster like at Ohio State or Texas, like everyone's new and so many positions. And it's impossible unless you are an absolute savant at this to track all of the roster moves at these lower level schools, at these Group of Five schools. But these schools are all going through it as well because it all filters down. It's really tough to gauge how these teams are going to come out. And that's why you're seeing so much movement in the market. Now, that opens up some opportunities. For example, I know I have a under 66.5 ticket on this game that I'm thinking about coming back over at 62.5. Now I'm
Mm.
not going to come back over for all of it. Usually when that happens, usually I go for a third of the original position just to kind of secure not as much of a volatile swing. But I do think these teams, especially Boise State, like it could be one of those spots where they're just significantly better because they have a little bit more depth to deal with.
Hmm.
Whereas when these rosters get ravaged, it's usually the backups that are the ones leaving. And if you can keep some of these players, I think these are the games where it matters, group of five versus group of five out of conference. But you're right. One loss, perhaps, for one of these teams to a non ranked team could be the end of their chances.
Yeah, like I said, the under would be the play for me. If I were you and I was looking to buy back on the over, I'd wait. I think this number might get hit down even further,
Sure.
and I would wait. But I'm going to play an under here on the 62.5 right now with Boise State and South Florida. So that's going to be my official play here on this game for tonight. Our next game is Ohio in Piscataway to take on Rutgers. And Rutgers opens up at 10.5 with a total of 47.5. Rutgers got bet all the way up to a 16-point favorite. I even saw 16.5s before this thing got beaten back down. As now at some of the sharpest books in town here at Circa, we got Rutgers only laying 14.5. There are 15.5s in the market as well. Total is up to 51, and I'm all over Rutgers here. I understand the move from 10.5 to 15.5 or 16. I don't understand the buyback, and that could just be like a couple of sharp players that are in town that are just kind of like getting the middle here, which is forcing, a book like Circa or the Westgate to kind of adjust here. But Rutgers returning 4 starters on the offensive line, and the biggest thing for me is the quarterback situation. Ethan Kaliakmanis, it's been so long since Rutgers had stability at the quarterback position. It just felt like every year it was like, who's it going to be? Or, who's going to step up? Who's going to be? It's like they know who they have. Another year in this offense, another year to grow. He was just named the team captain. He's on the Johnny Unitas Golden Arm watch list. This offense should be good, and we know Greg Schiano coaches defense. We know that he's going to be able to shut down the opposing team. He's going to scheme them up. And I found this stat. This is absolutely incredible. Greg Schiano, Jared, since he came back to Rutgers in 2020, he is 15-4 against the spread in non-conference games.
Wow. And I saw a note that said he's 13-0 in regular season non-conference games overall, straight up. 6-0 in season openers, too. So they tend to win these games. Now, obviously, the spread is rather large. They have to win this game by more than 2 scores.
Mm-hmm.
I'm down on the MAC this year. I think there's 1.5 good teams in the MAC. I think Toledo is a good team. I think Buffalo is decent. I don't know if there's anyone else in the MAC that can really hold a candle. Miami's okay. We'll get to their game in a little bit, but they're a big dog on the road at Wisconsin too. So I don't know how good Miami of Ohio is this year. I think the Toledo game this week, the fact that they're getting to a touchdown spread in that game against Kentucky is kind of telling you how good the Rockets might be this year. But it is interesting to see some of these Big Ten teams stretch their leg against the MAC. We've seen a lot of upsets in these games in the past. We've seen MAC teams beat Big Ten teams outright in week 1, but Schiano's had his way. And the offensive coordinator, I think, for Minnesota also came over with Kaliakmanis.
Yes.
So you get both, right? The same thing happened at Oklahoma. We're very high on Oklahoma this year because of that. Mateer and Arbuckle coming together. I think any of the transition is lessened a little bit when you bring the offensive coordinator over as well. It's kind of like a package deal. So, yeah, you would expect if the defense plays to form, the offense will be improved this year. I don't, love laying a big number with a team like Rutgers, but that does seem to be directionally where the market is going.
Yeah, like I said, the pushback going from 15.5 down to 14.5 could simply just be somebody looking to play back.
One person.
Exactly. Somebody looking to play back because they already have a minus 10.5 in pocket. And now they see 16.5 and they say, okay, if I take minus 10.5 and plus 16.5, I got myself a fat 6-point middle there, or maybe they took a 9.5, whatever. You know what I'm saying? So that could be the reason why that we did have movement down here. But I'm in on Rutgers, and it's the Schiano factor here, as I mentioned, 15-4 against the spread in non-conference games since he came back to be their head coach in 2020. Let's talk about East Carolina and NC State, Jared, where this is a really interesting situation because NC State opens up 12.5, total 56.5. It's now NC State minus 14. Total has been shot up to 62.5. I mentioned this is an interesting situation because these two teams played to end the year last year. This was the Military Bowl, the bowl game in which ECU beat NC State 26-21. So, like, how do you handicap that where you have a team that just – this isn't like Texas and Ohio State where, like, yes, Texas, the last game they played was against Ohio State, getting eliminated in the playoffs. But then Ohio State went on to win the national championship. Like, this is literally the last game both of these teams played was against each other. And now they have to play to open up the season. I think that's a fascinating angle here.
It is. You get a lot of coordinator switches, too. I think both coordinators are gone for NC State. They played that weird 3-3-5 for a while that I hated. I hate that in college football. We saw Iowa State play that and get absolutely shredded over the weekend and fortunately win that game. The offensive coordinator is different, too. I think he was former Virginia coach. He's gone now. They promoted from within, though, so that's always a positive. Anytime you promote from within, it kind of seems like, in my opinion, from the outside looking in, it feels like you have a succession plan in place and you're not firing someone and panicking like, oh, you suck, you're gone. We have no plan in place. Let's bring in some random guy from the outside. I think when you promote from within, especially when it's the quarterback's coach who has a direct line to the quarterback and you have that direct relationship, I think that shows continuity in the program. So you would think in general, like NC State, like the offense, the ACC, like it's gettable this year if you can win some games. The schedule this year, I mean, it's not daunting. I think this game, like you should be able to handle this game. And then you get Virginia at home. Again, that's a weird non-ACC. I don't know why it says non-ACC in the schedule there. That's an ACC game, right? Last I checked, Virginia and NC State. Are they playing weird?
I think what could happen is I think because of maybe the unbalanced schedule.
Yeah.
That
weird, right?
That they'll play each other because of the rivalry, right?
Yeah.
Like because this was
but it doesn't count in the ACC standings.
It doesn't count in the ACC standings.
Interesting.
So it's like because these schools schedule the home and homes, all these years, years in advance, and so I guess when they scheduled this. Maybe it was before conference realignment and the other things that happened. So this was already an agreed upon matchup here. So that's why it's like, hey, we're going to keep this agreed upon, home and home series, but it's not going to count in the ACC standings.
Yeah,
it's very weird. It's very
football scheduling right now. But
it's very, very
they don't
weird,
have to play. They don't have to play Clemson. They have to go to Miami. They have to go to Notre Dame. I don't think that's a conference game either, though. So there's some winnable spots on this schedule. I think in this game the market pretty much makes sense. I mean, I think you're going to see a lot of movement towards the favorites early on. And then you'll see some of the buyback like we've seen. But I to me, like especially when I'm betting on teams that I know are better and in a revenge spot, I unless I think that dog can win the game outright, I struggle with taking points in these types of spots.
NC State 3-12 ATS in non-conference games the last 3 seasons.
Yeah, Doeren hasn't been great. I'm not a big Dave Doeren guy. I think NC State's relatively, they've been a really good defensive team with some really good defensive prospects that have come through over the years, but they haven't really shown you their ceiling on offense. And I think that's why Doeren's gone through like 17 different offensive coordinators in the last 5 years. But the defensive coordinator they hired, the guy from Baylor who coached under Aranda, DJ Elliott, like I think he's really good. Again, these early games are so tough. There's literally, you can probably pick out every single team in every single Power 4 conference and pick out at least 5 to 10 major transition pieces that we just, because of the lack of access to college football, have absolutely no idea about. Now, the market doesn't have any idea either. So if you have an inside track on one of these teams, if you're an NC State insider down there in Raleigh, and you know that this team's going to have a really good defense this year, well, you're ahead of the curve. Because I think the market, especially on these early games, is going to be very, very active when we finally get some concrete information, aka 1 or 2 data points to go off of.
I also think that as we get closer and closer to kickoff, like the market is probably as sharp as can be here for week number 1.
100%.
Because
these lines have been out forever.
These lines have been out forever. The sharpest people have already been betting them, and the books have adjusted accordingly. So when the books, when Brad Powers walks in and starts betting the games, the book's going to adjust. And when other pros go in and start betting these games, when Paul Stone starts firing away at these games, the books are going to adjust. So these are the sharpest that that you're going to get here. So that's
Shout
something.
out Paul Stones and Brad Powers, two very good
Yeah,
handicappers in our
two
space that
two
probably don't get enough love.
yeah, two incredible college football guys.
Yeah.
I think Paul's going to be in town here this weekend. I heard Matt
Yeah,
Hughes
he's always
talking
been
about
very
that.
kind.
Yeah.
I've had many
Yep.
conversations with both. They're always very liberal with their information. They're very kind about that.
Paul and I are on the same handicap for the UNLV game. It's a separate handicap than one that I've already talked about with the overs. There's an angle to UNLV that I think I'm actually going to tease it to tomorrow's show.
Yeah.
So
You're
because
a pro.
because that game, because that game is on Friday night, is tomorrow night, not tonight. I'm gonna tease it to tomorrow's show. So tomorrow morning, I will give you a handicapping angle on that UNLV Sam Houston.
You've been all
game.
over UNLV this year. I'm impressed. You're like the running Rebs capper now.
Staying focused,
this is
man.
your team, bro.
Staying locked in. Staying locked in. It's right in our backyard. Come on.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the next game here. You mentioned the MAC team before. Let's talk about Buffalo going to Minnesota because a lot of people that I respect are on Buffalo taking the 17.5 points. And that's where we are right now in the market. It opened up Minnesota minus 18.5, total of 45.5. We've had some under money coming in. It's at 43.5 now. Minnesota minus 17.5. And as I mentioned, some people that I respect are on Buffalo here taking the points.
Yeah, I think Buffalo, right? There's two teams I like in the MAC, Buffalo and Toledo. I think it's a very simple handicap here. We're down on Minnesota. They lost a lot. We talked about the quarterback now that's at Rutgers. And we think Buffalo is one of the more undervalued teams in the MAC. Of all of the games on the board, this is one of the ones that hasn't steamed towards the favorite. The other one in the second part of the MAC Big Ten handicap late night is the other one that we just haven't seen a ton of movement off of. This thing's kind of been hovering around 17 and a half. The total took a little bit of a dip. Anytime the total drops, points become more valuable, and you think underdog. So to me, that's the simple handicap here. I'm sure there's a lot of personnel for both teams, especially Minnesota, that's kind of flip-flopping around. Mm-hmm. But Buffalo, to me, again, if I think the MAC, which I'm not very high on the MAC this year, I think, again, the MAC directionally is down. But I do think Buffalo is one of the better teams, if not the best team in that conference. So I will lean the points here for sure.
I wrote in my notes, there's only one thing that I wrote in this game in my notes, and it says, because sometimes, I know you do this all the time, you write notes to yourself, right?
Yes.
And so when I'm studying for games and stuff and prepping for shows and whatnot, and I'm researching games, sometimes I won't write complete sentences and I won't write a full out handicap, whatever. I'll just give myself bullet points or give myself notes. And sometimes I either that's all I have on a game, or I'll go back to it later on, whatever. We all have our processes, whatever. The only the note that I wrote to myself on this Buffalo game is Buffalo, no joke on defense.
Yeah, they're probably going to be pretty good on D.
And so I'm reading that and I was like, what did I mean by that? And I'm like, I guess I meant that Buffalo has a good defense. Like, cool.
Toby Stewart's a beast. He led the conference in sacks last year. That's the guy to look out for on that D.
It says Buffalo, no joke on D.
No joke
cool.
on D.
Great notes,
At least
Scott.
He didn't say don't something else on D, and then it would have been a much different read there.
There you go, Buffalo. All right, let's talk about Nebraska-Cincinnati. This game being played at a neutral site in Kansas City, but I do expect Nebraska to have the crowd there. I do think it's funny. I've made this joke several times. The kid, Dylan Raiola, who likes to emulate Patrick Mahomes, gets to play his first game in Patrick Mahomes' stadium.
Yeah.
Ha, ha, ha. Very funny there. Here's where we are with the spread. No movement. Nebraska opens up at 6.5. Nebraska is at 6.5 point favorites. Total up from 50.5 to 51.5. And I sometimes I simplify handicapping football, Jared, and I say, give me the coach, the quarterback, and the offensive line. Yeah. I think those are the three pillars of a football team. And I favor Matt Rule over Scott Satterfield. I favor Dylan Raiola over Brendan Sorsby. And I favor this Nebraska offensive line over the front line of Cincinnati. Therefore, I am on Nebraska.
Yeah, Holgorsen too, right? Like, he's kind of a wild card. I think in general, this Nebraska team is super intriguing. There's definitely a lot of upside with Raiola if he can take that next step. Satterfield, yeah, I would say kind of meh. Sorsby's had his moments. I remember betting on the Cincinnati team a lot last year. They had a few moments last year as well. This is a tough matchup for them. I'm actually surprised we haven't seen this get to the 7. There's been a lot of love for Nebraska early on in this process. They've kind of been a darling, perhaps, like a team that maybe some might think can sneak into the playoff.
Well, it's simple. This is year 3 for Matt Rule.
That it has to be.
And that's what we see.
That's when he makes the jump.
We see it every time. We saw it at Temple and we saw it at Baylor. Year 3, Matt Rule is when the team usually takes that big step forward.
So based off of that, you would think maybe this thing inches towards 7, if not closes 7. It's surprising, right? Again, because what we talked about with the lack of real true data or information about these teams heading into the season, you tend to get these violent swings based off of, things that aren't significant. Based off of that, I'm shocked we haven't seen 1 inch of movement with this number. I mean, really, even the total has barely moved. So maybe we'll get something on game day, at some point before kickoff tonight. We will get some movement. But my gut says Nebraska's been the buzzier team. And you're right. Cincinnati's just kind of this middling Big 12 team that probably goes 6-6 if they have a good year. And that's kind of what we think about Cincinnati. Where Nebraska, hey, 9-3, 10-2 is possible if they do make that jump. So I would say less than a score, you've got to be on Nebraska here.
I agree with it. And to me, it's, as I mentioned, I think Nebraska is going to have the crowd. This is a neutral site game, but they'll have the crowd there in Kansas City. Sure. If this game was in Lincoln, if this game was in Nebraska, like there's no way they're 6.5 point favorites. They're easily over a touchdown.
Favorites.
I don't know about 2 touchdowns, but they're easily well over a touchdown. Easily.
Yeah.
Here's a trend here. Cincinnati as an underdog in the last 4 years, 4-14 against the spread.
Interesting.
And here's one that I found. This was, I believe this was a Steve Makinen VSiN trend. Favorites under a touchdown. Okay. Power 4 opponents, neutral field. So 2 Power 4 conference teams, neutral field game, and laying less than a touchdown. Those favorites, 13-6 against the spread since 2013.
Yeah, the trends are tough to like. Some of them are really good. I struggle with wrapping my head around all of them because like I don't have any context on any of those games.
Sure.
But I think again, directionally speaking, when you're waking up this morning and you're trying to figure out if you're making a good bet or a bad bet, because these things will steam a point or two right before the game. We see that happen all the time in college football, especially early in the season. I think directionally speaking, this one feels like it's going to close Nebraska -7.
I think so. Yeah. So get in on Nebraska now while you can at the 6.5 number. Let's do one more game here, Jared. Give me since we've been talking a lot of Mac, give me your thoughts here on Miami of Ohio at Wisconsin. Wisconsin laying 17.5 here over the Red Hawks, and no movement here. Opened up at 17.5. It's still 17.5. Total 41.5. It is at 41. I don't have a read on this game. Do you have anything on this game?
Well, I bet under 41.5 like a month ago.
Okay.
And then it got down to 39.5. And then we saw the inevitable buyback. And I think 40 feels like the right closing total here. 40.5, 40, right? 40 is a key total in college football. So is 41. Obviously not as key as a 3. But you do get these kind of levels of key totals in college football, especially the lower the total, the more impactful each point is. And so those keys do you get stuck on some of those numbers. I think 41, I would be surprised if we continued to move higher from 41 based off of where we were a month ago at 41.5 and then the under. I do think Miami's defense can hang. Wisconsin, what are they going to do? They're going to try to run the ball again. Last year, I mean, Jesus, like it was awful. They went to that spread offense and tried to throw all the time, and that was just a complete disaster, which is why Wisconsin fired Phil Longo, their OC, late in the year. Now it's Jeff Grimes, right? And I think they're going to go back to the run, and I think, to me, that leans under. The spread's probably right. I don't think Miami is as good as the rest of the MAC. I think they're a level below some of those top-tier teams. Daquan Finn, right? You get MAC transfer quarterbacks. He was the Toledo quarterback last year. Now he transfers over to Miami. So to me, that's a lateral move. So I don't really think they're going to be significantly better on offense. I think their defense can hold up in the trenches, at least, hang on for dear life. Because, Wisconsin, after what happened last year with Longo, they're going to try to pound the rock all day. So I think under 41 feels like a decent bet.
What I did, just for fun, just as a little sprinkle, little pizza money, as Mitch and Paulie would say.
There you go.
Little pizza money. What I did is I took the marquee games for tonight. And we're talking the big games. We're talking about Boise State and South Florida, which are power conference schools. So I took Boise State, South Florida, Ohio, Rutgers, East Carolina, NC State. I took Buffalo, Minnesota, and Nebraska, Cincinnati. So I took those 5 games, and I did a 5-leg parlay. First half
Favorites?
unders in all 5. Again, just a little pizza money. This took a little sprinkle, little sprinkle, couple bucks. Like I
would have liked that a lot more if it was a traditional slate where you had
of course,
different times.
Yeah.
And you could maybe come back late on
Jared,
your last one.
This isn't about like being like sharp or making money here. This is about, hey, I have an angle here for week number 1.
Okay.
And I'm thinking if I can, I don't like to call it pizza money because pizzas are expensive now. I mean, you try to go to Pizza Rock, it's like $40 for a pie. So pizza's
no, that's not it. It's like dollar slice at New York City. Pizza.
I call it it's like Starbucks money for me. It's like go get my
that can be pretty expensive too these days, especially on the strip. That could be like 20
sure. But I was curious. I'm like, you know what? I have an interesting angle here for the first games of the season. I'm going to take these 5 games. I'm going to do all first half unders.
You know you're going to go 4-1.
Of course. Of course.
You're definitely going 4-1.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's a bad angle. Especially the South Florida game, which is going to be played in obscene heat. Especially that Miami of Ohio Wisconsin game, which looks like it's going to be a run pound the rock type of game. Nebraska Cincy, I don't know. I could see Rule coming out and just saying, "Screw you, Cincinnati. I'm going to put pedal down." But I don't hate the angle. I think the angle makes sense. But you're going to go 4-1.
Yeah, of course. We'll see. We'll celebrate that coming up tomorrow. Also coming up tomorrow, we will get to the Friday games and our best bets for the weekend. I do have 2 best bets for the weekend. I have a best bet for Friday night, which we've already talked about here, but I will absolutely give you a very interesting angle that I don't think enough people are talking about in this UNLV Sam Houston game. So there is your teaser for tomorrow's show. For now, we tie a bow around the college football conversation, and let's get into some Major League Baseball.
With Robinhood, not only can you trade individual stocks and ETFs, you can also seamlessly buy and sell crypto at low costs. Trade all in one place. Get started now on Robinhood. Trading crypto involves significant risk. Crypto trading is offered through an account with Robinhood Crypto LLC. Robinhood Crypto is licensed to engage in virtual currency business activity by the New York State Department of Financial Services. Crypto held through Robinhood Crypto is not FDIC insured or SIPC protected. Investing involves risk, including loss of principal. Securities trading is offered through an account with Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC, a registered broker-dealer.
Major League Baseball, interesting results from yesterday as we look ahead to a Thursday schedule, which will have several day games here, and we'll get to it in just a moment. Real quick, let's recap what we saw yesterday. The Bronx Bombers did exactly that. They bombed away several home runs, including one by Aaron Judge, MVP, as the Nationals had no answer for the Yankees. 11-2, Yankees beat the Nats. Braves beat up on the Marlins 12-1 as well. You want to talk about a team beating up on a team? How about the Rangers 20-3 over the Angels last night? My goodness. Frustrating result for me with the Blue Jays because I had the Blue Jays first 5, Jared, and Eric Lauer just was pitching batting practice. Like, he literally gave up 4 home runs in the first 5 innings. It was just like 10 hits, 4 home runs. Like, he was just letting everybody do whatever. And the Blue Jays were down. They kept clawing back. Like, this was a 3-0, a 3-1 game. Then it was a 3-3 game. Then it was a 6-3 game. Then it was a 6-5 game. And then eventually it became an 8-5 game after 5 innings. And I said to myself, you know something? And I didn't do it. I said, I should live bet the Blue Jays because knowing my luck, they're going to come back and win this game. And they did. Blue Jays came back and they won 9-8. They scored 3 runs in the bottom of the 8th inning, won that game. Go figure. Just get me to football. I mean, baseball is just so frustrating right now.
I've been doing okay with props, but I haven't bet many Nerfies recently. It's been kind of a focus on football week for me, for sure.
Well, how about the performance last night of Nolan McLean, the Mets stud rookie, throws 8 shutout innings against the Phillies. The Mets sweep Philadelphia 6-0 the final. 10 straight wins now for the Mets over the Phillies at Citi Field. The lead in the National League East is now down to 4. And for this kid, McLean, his first start was against Seattle, and he shined. 24-year-old kid. He goes 5 1/3 shutout innings, 8 strikeouts, but he had 4 walks. And you're like, all right, rookies in their first starts, there's always high variance, Jared. You know that, right? They could either get rocked or they can throw a no-hitter. Like, you never know. There's no film on them. Who knows what the scouting report says? And then in his second start, he goes 7 innings against the Braves, allows 2 runs on a home run, 7 strikeouts and no walks. So the strikeouts were still there, but he cut down on the walks. So now I'm like, okay, this is impressive. But not against the Phillies lineup. Like, this is when like reality sets in, right? Nope. 8 shutout innings, only 4 hits allowed, 0 walks, 6 strikeouts for McLean. You could have gotten plus money. You could have got like plus 140 on the over 5.5 strikeouts for McLean last night. Yeah. What a performance. And the Mets now, this is a lot of positive momentum here.
Yeah, it is interesting because, the Phillies just lost Wheeler. And you will see how that kind of, takes its impact. Usually, you get that hero boost for the first week or two. And then over the last maybe month or so, which is about what's left in the season, you might see that impact linger a little bit. I mean, the Mets are only 4 back in the division. Phillies have lost 3 in a row. Mets have won 3 in a row. I'm not saying it's going to happen because I think the Mets either way are going to be in the playoffs based off of the wild card.
Yeah.
But you would much rather prefer to be the division winner and avoid the wild card if you can. And based off of how the Central is going, it doesn't look like that's going to happen. But maybe the Dodgers take a step back, right? It does look like those, right? It's the top 2 teams avoid the wild card in the
just
the playoffs.
just the one.
It's just the one.
It's the top. So you'll have
only the top seed that avoids the wild card.
You'll have the two teams. The 2 top teams will be in the division series already. The wild card series, yes.
Yeah, so
it's
the top 2 teams.
Yes.
So right now, if the Mets win the division, they are a few games back of the Dodgers for that 2nd seed. So there is a chance that the Mets could get into that bye, right, into the divisional round, which is obvious. I mean, you obviously want to play less playoff games if you can, I would think.
The thing that gets me, and I said this on yesterday's show, imagine if we didn't have the 3rd wild card, how important that series would have just been. Because if the Mets right now are 2.5 games back of the Padres for that 2nd wild card, like, they're 4.5 up on the Reds. Like, they're going to make the playoffs.
I'm not on the Cubs bandwagon, though. I could see the Cubs taking a big step back the final month.
Could happen, but they're still an incredible offense. But all these teams, I think we know who the playoff teams are. It's over with.
The Reds finally got swept. How about that?
Yeah, exactly.
It finally happened. I remember that for your nugget from last week's show.
I know, and
I guess the Dodgers would be the one team to do it.
Exactly. Someone tweeted me and they were like, "Hey, do you not like the Reds to avoid the sweep tonight?" And I was like, "Look, the price makes it interesting to fade Ohtani. However, there's nothing to like about the way the Reds are playing baseball right now, and so it's not a play for me. It's not like they're just playing bad baseball right now. So that's why they're on the outside looking in.
Was free money. I was on that. I feel like he has some of those games where he just goes absolutely bananas. This is a really good matchup for him.
Well, he just stunk it up against Colorado. Had his worst start in a long time, and it was Ohtani bobblehead night last night. So of course he was going to have the massive strikeout
that
numbers.
Should have been, man. We should have been all over that for more. I should have been on the alt in that.
Yeah, that's your fault. All right, let's talk about today's schedule. You got Garrett Crochet going for the Red Sox, who are going for a 4-game sweep of the Orioles. What a come from behind win last night. Ceddanne Rafaela with a 2-run home run in the 9th inning. Chapman gets the save. Red Sox beat the Orioles last night. Crochet is pitching for the Cy Young. He is right there with Skubal. Right now he is at even money to win the American League Cy Young. Skubal's only like minus 125 or so. Crochet and the Red Sox heavily favored against Cade Povich and the Orioles. I would back the Red Sox in the first 5 innings here. I know the Red Sox have shown like the late magic like they did yesterday, but Roman Anthony is now leading off and hitting home runs to lead off games, and Crochet, I don't expect him to give up anything here. So I'd go with the first 5 Red Sox play.
I agree.
This one.
It's not a great slate today, to be perfectly honest. You get a lot of day games, too. I'm always concerned whenever there's day games. You get the shadows. You get the weird start times. I think Thursdays are just really punt baseball days for me usually, unless you have like a really good angle.
Sure. Diamondbacks are at the Brewers. Jose Quintana for the Brewers. Going for the Diamondbacks is this Nabo Krismet guy who last time he pitched, he's a young kid. No, he's not young, but he's only pitched twice this season. He had last time out against Cincinnati 4 shutout innings. He had 5. He wasn't the starter. He was the bulk guy in that game, like they used an opener. So I'm curious to see if they do that again here against the Brewers or not. Brewers actually used an opener yesterday in Aaron Ashby. Rockies are at the Astros. Houston finally got a win thanks to Framber Valdez. Jason Alexander on the mound for the Astros. Kyle Freeland for Colorado. Pirates at the Cardinals. Ashcraft goes for the Pirates. Miles Michaelis for the Cardinals. Cubs are at risk of being swept here as they have looked terrible in this series against the Giants. Got blown out last night. Shota Imanaga on the mound for the Cubs and Logan Webb for the Giants. San Francisco's minus 120. Cal Quantrill goes to the Braves. Phillies will counter with Aaron Nola as Philadelphia looks to snap their skid. They're minus 185. Marlins are at the Mets. Adam Mazur on the mound for the Marlins. Clay Holmes goes for the Mets. It would be typical Mets fashion to sweep the Philadelphia Phillies and then lose to the Marlins as minus 255 home favorites.
That would be very, very Metsian.
Yes.
I think, like, honestly, I think the worst of the Mets season is behind them. I think they've battled through a lot of adversity. I think you get a rookie. Anytime a rookie starting pitcher comes up and gives you a spark, I think it does kind of filter down to the rest of the team. And that's the one thing that they've been missing is just like a really elite, right? Like, remember when Matt Harvey came up that one year and it was just like, whoa. It lifted the whole team. And I'm not saying Nolan McLean is Matt Harvey, don't get me wrong, but I just think you get a spark like this, and then you go out and you maybe sweep the Phillies. Maybe Mets, I don't know what the Mets price is to win the division, but, it feels a little correlated to them winning this game today.
Yesterday it went to about plus 370. It was down.
And they're not plus 370 to win today. I mean, if they win this game today and they're 3 games back and you get all the momentum and Wheeler's out, I mean, I feel like you can make worse bets out there today.
And the Mets have another prospect coming up tomorrow. They are starting Jonah Tung. Their top pitching prospect comes up. So Mets looking for that spark. Looking for that spark. One final game tonight. Yankees are at the White Sox. Will Warren for the Yankees. Davis Martin for the White Sox. Yankees feeling good right now. 4 straight wins. The offense looks great. Aaron Judge is homering. And good vibes all around here for the New York Yankees. Updating that MVP market, as we always like to talk about. Aaron Judge is up to now minus 160, I believe, is him to win the MVP after Cal Raleigh goes 0 for 3 yesterday and drops his batting average to 244 on the year. And I brought this up yesterday as I got very animated about Cal Raleigh and Aaron Judge. Cal Raleigh, now with the 244 batting average, is batting below the major league average.
MVP. And again, there's going to be times when we disagree on the show, and that's going to be more, and those are going to be fun times. This is not one of those times, people. This is egregious. This is an egregious. I don't want to call it a narrative because, I mean, the dude's hit like a gajillion home runs this year, and he's a switch hitting catcher. Like, it's a really fun story.
It's a great story.
And I understand why the market is reacting to it, but it is purely reactionary to home runs. And I just think when you get a real logical voter that gets in the booth at the end of the year, there's going to be some people that are really enamored by the home runs, but then you just look at any of the other stats and it's just like, what has he done this year? But the market really thinks he's in this race. And I think it's froth. I honestly do. I think the whole Raleigh thing is very frothy. And I think when push comes to shove and people actually have to punch their ticket, I think Judge is the guy.
Yeah, his thing is like, what does the market know? Like, I had this argument, and
nothing.
I talked
very
about this.
Reactionary.
Thank you. I talked about this a little bit yesterday on the show because I had a I don't want to call him a hater, but I had somebody that was all up in my mentions about my comments about Aaron Judge and the MVP,
sure.
And I basically said exactly what you say all the time, and it makes a lot of sense. I'm like, you know what, like, hey. These markets are reactionary. They're not predictive because we see favorites all the time that lose in voted on markets. Jason Tatum was minus 500 to win the NBA Finals MVP.
Jackson Merrill last year.
Yeah. And it happens all the time. And my hater is tweeting at me saying that it's irresponsible of me to say that Aaron Judge is like free money at even money or something like that. And like, I'm not giving out like the proper value, the fair market price or something like that. And I'm like, huh?
I'll
Fair
give
mar-
that person, if they're listening right now, if they're, hey, I'll give them the fair market price right now. It's significantly higher than what it's currently being lined.
Yeah. And this is the best response.
That's all you need to know.
This
Plus EV. It's higher than where it's currently lined at. That's all you need to know.
This is the best response. I go, the betting markets are not predictive. Just because sportsbooks have the odds one way doesn't mean that's how voters are going to vote. I still think there's incredible value betting on Judge. And then he says, conviction's great, but without fair odds, it's not betting insight. It's just touting with opinions and yelling at clouds.
That's all handicapping is. That's what it is.
And so I respond and I talk about how
rewards market. What
exactly.
analytics do you have?
So that's what I said. I said there's no such thing as fair odds in a voted on market, right? and he
where
goes,
are your power ratings from? What are you polling all the voters?
I brought up the Tatum thing, and he's like, Tatum was 85% to win and lost. That's variance. It's going to happen. It doesn't mean that these markets aren't predictive. And then and he says odds move because sharp money disagrees, not because books panic. And I was just like, I went back and forth.
Threw a lot of word salad at you there.
Yeah. And then he just said, there's no risk for you to make these claims. It's the ultimate free roll. If Judge wins, you celebrate, and if Raleigh wins, the voters got it wrong. And I'm like, okay, like, it's just, you know what, like, it's fine to disagree. This is my opinion. Sure. And I feel very strong about my opinion. And that's the thing. Like, when I say these markets are not predictive, it's not like we have a straw poll of the baseball writers of America that we're going off of to make these markets. And I joked around.
We get some straw polls throughout the year.
We get them in the
drop them, but they're also not confirmed voters.
Exactly. And I said, it's not like, I said, do you think when Circa's making the odds for the MVP, you think Jeffrey Benson's on the phone with Mark Feinsand and Tim Kirchin and Jason Stark and Jeff Passan, and he's asking them, hey, who are you going to vote for the MVP so I can make my odds? No. Yep. They set the market based off historical data, wins above replacement, things that have been known to predict the MVPs. And then when somebody comes in and bets a lot of money on the other side, they're going to move.
They're reactionary. They're not predictive.
Yes.
And I've been, honestly, this is something that I have adjusted my approach to over the years. I was once in the camp of, oh my God, the odds moved. I'm going to lose this bet because I'm not on the right side. Now I look at it very differently because I've had a little bit of experience, right? You gain a little bit of wisdom over the years, and you learn about how the markets really work. And the way the markets really work is the sports books, when they throw up an original number, they're guessing. They are guessing. Now, it's an educated guess. They're very good at guessing. That's why those casinos are very bright and shiny, but it is a guess. And then that's why the limits usually are pretty low early on, especially with awards markets with high payouts and high holds. And then they let the market decide where to move the odds. Hence, it is a reactionary market, not predictive. Now, their odds for an NFL side, they have ratings that are very good. They have data that is very good, where they can be a lot more predictive with the numbers they are putting out. And then they will shade those numbers based off of opinions that they have, usually by a half point to a point around key numbers. But the awards markets are not constructed in that way. And I think a lot of people fail to recognize that.
Great point. Way to sum it up there. Much better than I could sum it up there. So that'll do it for today's episode. Enjoy the college football games coming up tonight. We'll be back tomorrow with another episode to talk about the Friday games and our best bets for the weekend in college football. And then next week, it's all about the NFL. We are finally here. Speaking of the NFL, I keep promising this and I keep not delivering, so I apologize, but it will be up later today. So I can tell you, it will be up later today. We have a research piece. Mackenzie Rivers did some great research, and I'm formulating the article starting later today. So it will be up on NFL Week 1 coaching trends. So
nice.
You're definitely going to want
to read that one. Mackenzie's fantastic at his job, by the way. Very, very sharp.
You're definitely going to want to take a look at some Week 1 coaching trends here to get ready for next week's NFL action. Follow Jared Smith on Twitter at Jared Smith Bets. You can follow me, Scott Seidenberg, at Scott's On Air. Make sure you are subscribed to this podcast and subscribe to Better Day on betterday.com. Get the daily newsletter, and when I'm done publishing an article, guess what? I'm going to email it to you so you have it. so you're updated. And also the picks page updates throughout the day, so make sure you're checking that out as well. We went 1-1 yesterday, so we got vigged out, but overall it's been a pretty good season so far. I mean, season. We've only been going at it for 2 weeks now.
Vigged
here
out.
On Better
That's a
Day.
fun word. I haven't heard that one before. That's okay. You should put that on a shirt. Vigged out.
I'll gladly make a shirt that says vigged
That's
out.
a cool one. I haven't heard that phrase before.
Really?
Vigged out. Yeah,
What's-
no, it's an interesting way to say that you've been, you lost the juice.
Yeah. What type of degenerate are you that you've never said vigged out before?
I don't know.
I'm
clearly not in the know.
Say it all the time. All right. For Jared Smith, I'm Scott Seidenberg. Here's hoping you make today and every day a better day.